This podcast shines light on strong and talented women who excel and persevere in life while bathing in abundant self-love. So if you're ready to keep it real, level up in all your inner work, creative business, and community impact, then you've come to the right place because we provide you with content that helps your soul glow and your mind grow. Thank you for pressing play. Let's dive in.
Hey community, Brett here, back again with another episode. So this episode definitely connects to the previous episodes. So if you haven't listened to that one, you should probably stop right now and go listen to that first. But yeah, I wanted to do a kind of a part 2 episode, but also speak a lot on just gratitude and community as well. Because throughout this process, of building up this nonprofit and, building up and leveling up my career as an artist, I think gratitude has been so important along this journey. And I think that, I don't really know where I would be without it. I think it is so vital to the journey and to being able to fall in love with the creative journey. So yeah, I wanted to just, dive into this combo a little. So get comfortable. I have like 2 really big Trader Joe's coconut waters next to me because I've been so dehydrated and they have been giving me life. So highly recommend that. But whatever you have to sip on to just relax. And yeah, let's get into it. So I guess I kind of left the previous episode in a bit of a cliffhanger because I was talking about turning the site off for a little bit, taking a little break. While we gather back our community, because if you haven't, been listening to this podcast, our nonprofit has been pretty like hardcore attacked by Instagram. Like our community that we built within that app has been really shadow banned, blocked. It's just on, and it's been going on for the last 2 years. And then finally, in this past couple weeks or so, they actually removed our page, a page that was about, I don't know what, like 12, 13 years old or something like that. That's how long we had been building our community base on Instagram. And so it's been really frustrating because it's, as I kind of explained in the previous episode, it's been a lot like, first nobody believed me, then people believed me, but nobody really knows what to do. And, and it's just interesting because I think that it's crazy because all that it would take, this is hindsight, but all that it would really take is, sharing more what's happening and like publicizing it so it gets so loud that they can't do anything about it. Like, to me, I was thinking about this, and even if you go back in the previous episodes, like this is the first time that I'm really, exercising my freedom of speech and sharing my voice and sharing my story. And, on this podcast, it like starts with my very first time ever doing a solo episode. And yeah, and I was just thinking like about how when I was kind of silent, how when I suppressed my voice, how when I kind of hid, all of my talents and all of what I was doing, in the end, I feel like that's a lot more dangerous than actually advocating for yourself and actually, exercising your freedom of speech, because I think that, we have to validate ourselves and get to the point of self-validation, because especially when the world is in chaos and in flux, I think it's so so very important. And I'm so glad that I learned it, and yeah, it was kind of like a hard way to learn it, but um it's not hard for me to advocate for myself anymore because I've been doing it for so long now. And it's beautiful to see like the evolution of it, like I can see my whole like growth like on this very podcast. And I think that's pretty dope. Um, so yeah, it's been quite a journey. And, I'm sure you guys are like, well, I mean, well, what's the deal with like the whole family situation and your friend situation? And is that, resolved, or is the stuck page back up and all this? And actually, I've had a very amazing past 2 weeks. And you know, I feel like at one point I definitely like gave up on community a little bit. But in this past week or so, yeah, community has just been so helpful. And, people have been coming in with offers and opportunities, and we got some more monthly donors. And so I just put the site back up, which is really great. And then, with when it comes to like resolution or like a solution when it comes to like family drama or friend drama or anything like that, it's just I don't know. I mean, I always just exercise forgiveness. Like I always have forgiveness for everything and everyone, and I have love for everything and everyone, but my forgiveness doesn't mean like that I want any re-entry into my life, with certain energies, with certain people, with certain, things that have happened. And so, yeah. And so, I mean, I still have great friends. I still have a great, amazing, beautiful group of friends and that I love very much, even if I don't see them very often. And I am thankful for the people who, did stay down and like did, support me and, in even in quiet ways, even if it's sharing a laugh or sharing a meme. So yeah, I have just I'm really thankful for that. And yeah, things have just been like I'm telling you, like speaking out really is a powerful thing. And it's like it's a real way to create change. And ever since, I've been speaking out more and more, and I think, repetition is kind of key, or consistency, you can say. Yeah, I really just got some amazing opportunities and some beautiful things have started to happen. And I feel so much like forward momentum and positivity. And like I have an art manager that's wild, and I'm preparing for a solo show that's amazing. And our Little Hardest program is finally booming and evolving again and live. And I just taught a class for it this past weekend at another Black owned gallery that we're partnering with. So that was just amazing. And, STUK is evolving as I evolve. And, honestly, that was always the goal. And so it was definitely a bummer, when the Instagram got taken down. For sure. And but I've already kind of grieved it. If you listen to previous episodes, it's like I've seen this coming, and I've just been really tired of the attacks, on the page, on the community, on just like the credibility, of who and what we are as an organization. So yeah, while it's a bummer, I'm kind of just like relieved a bit, because I really love our TikTok. I really love, our blog. I really love interacting with people on our Twitter. Like we have YouTube. We don't really need Instagram, and especially we don't need an app that is not for us, and it's really not for us. Like when we tried to post images as ads, some of the illustrations, like the Black Lives Matter illustrations, etc. We would get letters back that said that we can't post these things because they're political. And then they would have all these instructions of what we can do to get that appealed. And then it never appealed. And it was like weird loopholes and alleyways. And it just like a headache. And it's just to run you low. I feel like that's the goal of it. And so I'm really happy to be free of it. I feel like we've been tethered to it for a really long time and not been able to like figure out a solution. And so I actually created on our site, our STUKdesigns.org site, I created our own personalized newsfeed, which will be updating weekly with, happenings, with news clips, that apply to art advocacy, self-love, etc. But yeah, so now our site is the hub. Our site is the meetup. So be sure to, bookmark our news feed, and you can always interact and engage with us and comment with us on YouTube as well. So yeah, it's been a lot to figure out. I've had like a lot to like move through, but like I was saying in the beginning, it's just so fluid to move through if you just do everything with gratitude. Like despite, that the being a really shitty thing that happened and it being just really fucked up that like nobody could really like help me, nobody could really come in and really actually help us with what was happening on Instagram. But at the same time, it created like just more good things to happen and more space for us to create. And so it's just like sometimes things that seem like they're just moments of failure or moments of like, oh my gosh, I don't know how I'm going to get out of this. It's just like, they happen for a reason to elevate you even further if you like trust the process. And moving through gratitude, I think like really helps you trust and fall in love with the process, because you're like, this thing happened, but man, I'm so lucky to have this company. But man, I'm so lucky to get to serve these girls. Like, man, I'm so lucky to bring this project into fruition. Like, man, I'm so lucky to like still be on this journey. And so, yeah, I've been really activating like gratitude and forgiveness throughout this whole journey. And it's just made it so fluid. And I don't know, I've always been at peace, even in the hardest times of things, because I'm just so grounded within myself and within my own self-love and my own center space, which is like my heart, So yeah, I'm actually in a really, really happy space. It's really beautiful. And it's amazing how just this space, that I've been in a few times in my life, I feel like it always comes up and evolves when I've been creating, when I've been painting, when I've been drawing, when I've been writing. And I've arrived. Here we are in this really beautiful, creative, almost Renaissance-like space. So yeah, in the previous episode, I talked a lot about how family and everything can affect the self-love journey, or how it is part of or weaved into the self-love journey. And I think that if we're not aware, we can really just subconsciously or unconsciously play out the characteristics or behaviors of our parents or of our ancestors, etc. And if we tap into self-love and we are aware of what we're doing and we're aware of ourselves and how we're moving and how we're thinking, then we can start to like break patterns and habits and be like, like, wait, why do I do this? Am I doing this because I really want to, or am I doing it because it's like a conditioned thing that my family has always done, And so I think it just helps question. But I think that we all have a responsibility to really, cultivate our inner state, our inner being, that light within. I think we all have a responsibility to really, cultivate the garden within. That's my slogan for my personal site, brettsims.com. But I think that it's like, that's a part of self-love. Like, we have to be able to tap into, our own inner space, our own inner state, that own inner garden within our own souls. And, and figure out like how to make that beautiful and how to make that a space that we love to be in. Because I think that, it's so important that we are most in love with our own energy and our own vibration. And it's so powerful when you can fall in love with like your own vibration and your own wave, versus anyone else's. Like, I've never really understood celebrity culture, and I've never really wanted, STUK to be super like celebrity heavy. Like, I've kind of veered away of even illustrating celebrities because I never believed in, like idolizing anyone else. Like, I never believed in just wanting to be Beyonce. I've always just wanted to be myself, And I wouldn't necessarily say like I idolize myself. I think I have a healthy self love. It's not narcissism. I'm just like in love with the light within the I am that I am. And so, yeah, that's just why I never wanted to like have anyone just super be attached or resonated to like a celebrity, within STUK or a celebrity illustration. Although, sometimes I do illustrate them here and there. But I think it's most important to be in love with yourself first. And I think a lot of us, I think even a lot of us listening to this or who resonate with this might be people in your families who've had to like break the generational chains or break, generational traumas, generational habits, generational quote unquote curses, and and I think that often makes us like the black sheeps of the family, quote unquote, or whatever. But I always say that like I'm a wolf in black sheep's clothing because I don't think that black sheep is really what that is when you're called to, you know, elevate family patterns, when you're called to awaken higher consciousness within the structure of your family unit. So I think it's really powerful. Excuse me, I need some coconut water, guys. um, but yeah, I think when you can become aware and awake and conscious of habits and of um just like cycles and repetitive things that show up in your family, then you can start to like break them apart and heal them and heal from them. And that's a really beautiful space to get to because it's like on my self-love journey, as you can listen to in my my self-love journey episodes. um yeah, it's just been a struggle for me, like that the family part of it was always like this roadblock that I was bumping up against, because I didn't understand why. Like, I didn't understand what was going on there. I didn't understand that there were, just deeper things, hidden things that had not been addressed. And and I didn't know that I had to really, uncover and kind of address them to really get to a full state of healing, but I did. And I don't know, like I'm just one of those kids, like, I guess you could say I was kind of like nerdy, but I don't know, it was always kind of cool. So maybe I was kind of like Harriet the Spy. I was obsessed with Harriet the Spy. Like, I had a journal, I did the whole thing. But so I feel like I kind of treated this breaking family trauma curse thing like that, like uncovering a kind of like mystery or something like that. And it's been years of me kind of just figuring stuff out and figuring out why things are the way they are and why they make me the way that I am. Because, I do want to make clear that I don't think that like I don't blame anyone for anything that's ever happened in my life. I don't ever claim victim or victim mentality. I think that everything that happens is definitely a reflection of me and my own inner state. So that's what I try to dive into when I try to figure out, like, okay, why is my inner state kind of, making this show up? And how does it relate to my family? And how does it relate to my ancestry? And how can I change this and how can I shift this at a root level so that, generations after me don't have to deal with this same traumatic issue? And yeah, that's the way I think about life. I don't know. It's very high level, but that's just how I operate. And so, and I think it's just because at such a young age, I dealt with trauma and I've just not wanted to, I don't want things to repeat. I don't want to have to deal with it again. And I don't want other people to have to deal with the same things that I have had to deal with. Like, I mean, I think it should be pretty obvious by now that like I have started this nonprofit because of what I've been through, because I've been through so much emotional trauma and struggle and depression and anxiety and heartbreak and pain and all of this, and trying to, become an artist on top of it and start a nonprofit on top of that and be a Black woman in America on top of all of that. And I think, yeah, it's definitely a struggle, and I don't want, especially like I do it for my sister a lot, who's 10 years old, but she, I don't want her to have the same struggles. I want her to not have to like feel like emotionally isolated or ignored, or, or to have to deal with like the same things because of like, no understanding of boundaries or etc. And I hope that this podcast also can teach her, as she grows and matures, and she can listen to my stories and how I've maneuvered through things. So I'm always thinking ahead a bit. I guess maybe it's my Aquarius rising, who knows. But yeah, definitely a bit of an Afrofuturist. Although, I really enjoy the present moment. I think it's really important to be here now. I love Ram Dass's, book, the Be Here Now book. It's just gorgeous and changed my life. It's part of my consciousness journey for sure. So, yeah, that was a random side note, but anyway. um but yeah, I think that man, it's just been such a journey. And this whole journey, like this struggle with like Instagram, which is so crazy, like just a struggle, just like a little app could cause so much disturbance. But it's crazy, and it made me realize like how attached to it I actually was, and then it made me detach from it a lot, because as our page was like being monitored and our views were like diminishing and going away, vanishing really, and then it was like hard for us to post. It was like, and then sometimes things just wouldn't post, or like, or my phone would mysteriously just like, run out of storage, and then I couldn't just do anything. And like most of the year I really couldn't like use my phone properly, just because it was just it through that app, it was very monitored. So it was a very strange feeling, because as an artist, as artists, I should say, we want to express ourselves, not being able to express is a kind of death to us. And at the time, when all of this began, it was like that was the only app that I was really using and utilizing for a form of expression. So it was like my form of expression was being blocked and suppressed and sidelined, and it was like I was being benched. And the worst part is, it wasn't like just the STUK page, it was both that, and then it went to my personal page. So my personal page is still very heavily shadow banned. Um, so it's just like it was very painful, not to be able to like express what I need to express and like, get the statistics out to you guys of what's really happening within the art world and how, few how the suppression really is going down, for Black voices, Black artists. And I think that just so many people are unaware because of the level of suppression that is happening. And I honestly think that like I think I'm suppressed on a lot of apps, honestly, but um right now we are rocking with Twitter for sure. That's the main app that we're going to use moving forward. So like if you want to check out what's happening, in real time, the links are going to be on there. We drop playlist links, we drop the NFTs. It's a fun place and a fun space. So follow us on Twitter for sure. But yeah, I just think that just my experience with emotional abuse, my experience with dealing with a mother wound, with my experience with just having to have so many toxic jobs to just like sustain this nonprofit. And for until 2019, and I started doing this in 2009, I funded this whole project by myself, with little jobs that I would pick up with like the graphic design clients that I had. So it was all in-house, all my own, tools, project money, all of it. And then, it was such a blessing when we officially became a nonprofit in 2019. But yeah, it's been such an ordeal, and I just don't want other girls and other women to have to deal with the level of struggle that I've been dealt with, internally. And I think that like, we all have different struggles, and that's what, this podcast also reflects. There are stories of other women and how they've moved through their struggles with self-love, which is dope. So, I also, think that it's so interesting because like I guess that this podcast would be seen as advocacy, like activism, like, ooh, these are such shocking things that she is saying. But it's so interesting because it's really like I'm just a Black woman and I'm just honestly telling you my experience, really just factually, of like the fucked up things that's kind of happened in this country that I've dealt with, and it's just like a lot of Black women are just silent about what it is that we go through and the level of struggle it is that we go through. And, mine is just a minute story, I think, in a macrocosm of like just, man, just stories, passionate, deep, sad, beautiful stories that we've been through. Because I think that, only if you're a Black woman do you really understand what it is to be a Black woman in this country. And only if you're a Black woman artist do you really understand what that struggle is, because that's also completely different. But I just think it's funny that it's seen as a form of like activism because, yeah, it's just me talking about my experience. Like, same as, when I'm painting and it's like me painting a Black woman or whatever, it's just like that's seen as quote unquote Black art, but I'm just painting what I see. And like, if a white woman paints a white girl, that's not seen as white art, It's so interesting. It's so very interesting because it's like they just kind of create no space for us. Like that means that, if me just speaking about my existence, me just speaking about my life, is shocking and is activism, then that means that there's not really that much space for us in, in America, and or there, that's what, the illusion is. So this podcast also serves to create space. We're all about creating space. And I really think that, art and artists, artists are the real leaders. Artists are the leaders of society. And art gives you the keys to society, which I think is definitely a threat. And I think that it is definitely like threatening to people in power. And especially in times of like chaos, fascist regime, just like the times of revolution, artists lead the way, artists lead the movements. And so I really, want to make it clear that what is happening on Instagram, on these social media platforms, is that artists are really being attacked. There's an attack on the arts, there's an attack on artists because artists represent freedom and freedom of speech. And and I think that that's why there's been so many artists who have had, their pages removed, blocked, banned, etc. And it's not just Black artists, it's Black and white artists. I think that that's the first like key point of, attack on this. On Instagram. And then, secondly, I do think it is like an attack on Black women owned business. Like, I think that that is a threat also because, like, if, the patriarchy really doesn't want to create space for Black women, then Black women artists having the keys to like society is just, it's very, anti-system. So yeah, I think it's kind of like two pointed why artists are being attacked or why this happened. And so yeah, I guess also the question is like, how can you help? Like if you feel called to, if you feel called to our mission, if you feel called to serve our girls as we're working in Ghana as well as girls in the US. But through our Fly Girl initiative, monthly, we send funds to Ghana, to our girls there and get them supplies, their basic needs met so that they can create with more freedom, ease, and peace and joy. And they are the most creative girls I've ever met in my life. So it's always a joy to connect with them and see them receive. And then I've just, man, it's just been such a joy also to get back to teaching art live because I love teaching kids and I love teaching art live. Actually, when I guess kind of like around the pandemic or so, I taught English online to little kids. And because I did that for such like a repetitive amount of time, I guess, yeah, it makes me so great at like now teaching really little kids art and painting. So this past weekend, I taught 24-year-olds painting, and they painted an abstract version of Minnie Mouse, and it was super cute. And then some are just proteges, and they just want to keep creating, and so some just kept going after the project was done, and that was also super fun. But yeah, it just really makes me come alive. I don't know, teaching art and being in gallery space and just like being around people. And so yeah, it was good. And STUK felt alive and well again, and like all feels aligned and well again. And yeah, I hope if you're inspired by our journey, by our story, by our stories as women collectively, and just of the mission of this nonprofit as a whole, if you resonate with getting more girls of color access to the arts and just bringing awareness to the fact that, we are excluded from the art world to begin with, I think, you know, is yeah, those are just like our points of focus. So if they, spark a fire in you, join us. You can join by subscribing to our newsletter. In our show notes, we have all of our links, so you can go there. But yeah, it's it's going to be different this time around because we are off Instagram and we're kind of going, more the underground route. And I think that'll give us a lot more freedom and safety to grow. And I'm excited to start this fresh chapter, I guess, of STUK. This post-pandemic chapter, I guess, because man, what a struggle that was. But I do think we've pivoted pretty beautifully. With our online classes, with our Patreon community, which you guys should definitely join. So yeah, I think that is all I really wanted to talk about today, guys. I would love to invite you all to also Color for a Cause with us. That is our nonprofit initiative where we raise awareness about, the lack of Black women of color in general within the art world, through our coloring books. It's art advocacy. And we have 3 different versions of coloring books, all available on our site. So dive in. It's very therapeutic. And yeah, we also have meditations. So I hope that, this podcast, that our website offerings, that our community as a whole can really provide you guys some support and love and peace and a safe space and safe haven and comfort during this time. I saw a quote on Twitter the other day, which was like, art has always been the safe haven, and art has and will always be the safe haven. I absolutely know that art saves lives and self-love heals. And, this podcast is living proof of that in and of itself. So I hope that wherever you are, whatever time and space it is, that you are in a space of love, abundance, protection. And I just wish you so much peace. And I hope you create something beautiful today. Until next time, bye.
Hi everyone, hope you liked that episode. We are all about preaching self-love and empowering women and girls around the world. Support us in our journey as we provide art supplies and many more resources to girls in Ghana through our 2 programs, the Fly Girl Initiative and Little Artists. We are also working on hosting more Color for a Cause events, as well as our No Filter school tours. Your help will enable this organization to work on bettering the lives of people around the world. For more information, visit our website www.stukdesigns.org.